r/antiwork. Savings Marsupial 204 says. Son applied to every entry-level job within 10 miles and still nothing. Kid is starting to see why I'm so jaded from work. 17-year-old applied to literally every store in the mall and every fast food restaurant for a first job within 10 miles. Rejection and rejection. Included photo. Berry Freshwater says. But Noon wants to work. No Business 1708 says. Everyone is begging for work. The Ineffable Sage says. Everyone is begging for wages they don't need to work 3 jobs for. If everyone didn't have so many jobs, kids could get some experience. But teachers, real professionals, have side gigs on weekends to make ends meet. That's when the kids are supposed to work. Shark Fiend says. The sad part is he probably got auto-rejected. Without a single person actually even looking at the application. Welcome to the job market, kid. Piku 1954 says. My daughter's first job at 16 was at a dollar movie theater. A friend suggested she apply. I never thought of movie theaters as job opportunities, although I don't know why. Please tell him not to be discouraged. The right opportunity will come along. FL Orange says. My daughter's first job was at a movie theater too. She was able to get another job closer to home with better hours at an ice cream/chocolate store, so she put her 2 weeks in at the movie theater. Omegasoul says. I wonder what that company name could be. Maybe Chick-fil-Ass. That's dirty. Maybe Chick-fil-Any. That's cute sounding, but I don't know what it means. Slight White says. Is the nearby Walmart fully staffed? My job is to get people jobs in rural areas. In my experience, if the Walmart is fully staffed at all times, that means the job market is bad. Walmart usually pays $1-2 more than the higher end of entry-level wages in the region. If it's hard to get a Walmart interview, that means entry-level roles around about a 5 to 10 mile radius are filled the frick up. For the past year, I tell clients in a certain county straight up that the job market is bad and it's gonna take a while. They're rural people used to snagging an entry-level job in the 20th century. Those jobs are now lifelines desperately held onto, not a starter job like it used to be. Edit. Nobody wants to work, yeah, bullshit. I just had a hiring manager call me 2 hours after posting a 8-hour per week janitor job. He was giving courtesy calls to all 17 people who applied in those 2 hours. Everyone wants to work around here and there just aren't any fricking jobs. r/antiwork. Thesa Marilyn 69 says. Coworkers are the reason I hate working. Actively have a jealous coworker trying to get me fired. She's your very typical entitled Karen. Has threatened me on multiple occasions that when her daughter joins the company she will take my spot because she's more qualified and has a degree. Caught her talking behind my back to my supervisor on multiple occasions about how much of a slacker I am. Lol. She also recently got very offended that I switched cubicles because I couldn't stand being next to her when she yaps constantly, which was affecting my focus. Wonder if it's time to move on permanently. Varnish 6588 says. Time to look for a new job, and meanwhile, have fun with her, apply the same treatment. Lucky Speed 3614 says. Yeah. Probably should, but while you're at it, report her 2 hours for harassment, then in your letter of resignation, mention hostile work environment as your main reason for leaving. It probably won't get her fired, but it will likely come back to haunt her in the future. Anigatorette 58 says. Move on. You do not need that kind of thing in your life. Make sure you don't burn any bridges with your boss, though. Primal Predator says. You should sabotage the Karen before you go. She deserves it. Laletru says. It's even worse if you aren't neurotypical. Sambizach, always trying to get me fired. Working remote is a godsend. Siskl says. I feel you, Opus. Most attention on this subreddit is directed at how horrible bosses are, which is true, but I find that very few Cowork appears to be any better. Lots of passive-aggressive behavior, backbiting/backstabbing, holding others up to standards that they won't hold themselves up to, etc. Sadly, the reason why most workplaces suck is because of people in general. Bosses may have the potential to do more harm, but their underlyings are rarely ever any better, and they will behave in the same manner if they are ever given positions of power. Ego is the problem, and I pray that it's burnt into submission for everyone, but that's unlikely to happen. So I would just try to not take anything serious and maybe adopt grey rocking tactics in attempt to mitigate it. I see Scientist 5965 says. I personally would move on. Work is such a big part of our lives. You need to be somewhere that you don't cringe at the thought of going in, to be accosted by your colleagues. Hope you get a resolution that suits you. Good luck, X. r/antiwork. Brockentoy 324 says. I'm in a position where I'm lucky enough to have a passive income, and how that affects jobs is sad/hilarious. I'll learn to not answer questions regarding income during interviews or even at the workplace, because 9/10 my manager or his manager will get upset. As soon as they discover I don't need the job, or that I'm not going to take random bullshit to keep a job I'm on the chopping block. It's insane to me that these people pretend to be pro-worker or pro-community and then expect you to be a slave to them and only them. Douchinazal 1163 says. They only want people who have no choice but put up w/their BS. Raging Pastafarian says. Desperate people are easier to control. This applies to more than just businesses, it applies to governments as well. Governments don't want intelligent, well-informed people voting. They want people who are living paycheck to paycheck and in permanent debt, so they don't have time to relax and think about things like philosophy and politics and corruption and economics, and what is actually in not only their best interests, but also in the best interests of their neighbors, and for the nation as a whole. Mother Apartment 1327 says. Thing is, poor and underclass people can actually obsess over things like philosophy and politics. However, it's just that the government and the capitalist system wants these people to be drowned in entertainment and substance abuse. Vast majority of them quite frankly waste a lot of their money on useless things that make them look better to other people. The high fashion trend is evidence. Rich people don't buy Gucci or LV. Their target audience is literally lower middle class citizens. And that's their majority of customers. Not rich people. Cautious Hold 428 says. This is also a reason that many jobs in retail/food service have frequently changing or unpredictable schedules. I've worked retail/food management in multiple places, and district/corporate management has straight up told me we need open availability and varying schedules, so our employees see that job as their priority and will think twice before calling out, taking leave, getting a second job, etc. It's also harder to punish employees with reduced hours if they don't need the income. Grumpy Kickstopy says. Oh, that explains why Domino's wouldn't hire me for part-time work. BC, I already had a job. They still have a sign out front that reads hiring all positions. I would have shown up, did my job, and went home, but nope. r/antiwork. Certfg says. I got yelled at for calling out multiple days when my grandpa died. I just got back in work after calling out for a couple days after my grandpa died, and I got called into our office and got yelled at for calling out and harming the business I work for, Target. I don't think the billion-dollar corporation is going to be harmed, but what the frick? kind of heartless. Biatch gets angry at someone taking time off when a family member died. Like what the frick? She said I was on thin ice. I swear I want to quit, so frick, I'm badly but I need money. Oxector7737 says, taking a bereavement leave is not misconduct. If you are threatening to fire me in retaliation for taking a protected leave, then I invite you to put it in writing so that I can show it to a regulatory attorney at the state labor department. Then watch her head explode. iLickercuts415 says, bereavement leave is not protected everywhere. It's only protected in 5 states. Tits out says, and bereavement often doesn't extend to grandparents. Tailungfu says, how do shitty people lucky that live with themselves? Psychopaths, I tell ya, absolute morons. A real swell time says, quick Google seems to show that Target had a bereavement policy that allows you to take up to 3 days for the death of a grandparent for most employees that have been there 90 days. Look up the actual policy to be sure and then take it to corporate. Fat Guiritathea 45 says, I got fired from a very large corporation for unintentionally taking too much time off for my grandmother's funeral the same day I got back. So I get it, many companies have no empathy. Sad Representative 357 says, this is your sign to never ever care more about the company than they do about you. Ever. For any reason. And I say this as a nurse for over 35 plus years. They do not give a shit about you. Oddlife 5660 says, you do me a favor and get the F out of that shithole. Point this place doesn't matter, none of them do. Family matters. Samtron 767 says, I've never understand why bosses somehow think they can yell at employees. They really are asking for trouble. Superfacetor 2 says, look around on Indeed. There's tons of other options. You can always switch jobs. And just think of the satisfaction you'll get when instead of a few days off, you take off forever and that shitty boss just has to deal with it. If it were me, I would get a resume ready right now. Go on Indeed and apply to every single job that I think I can tolerate. You'll have interviews in a week and hopefully a job the next week. It might not be what you want to do, but at least it won't be working for the same asshole. Once you get the new job, call Target and say you need time off to IDK spread your grandpa's ashes in his favorite place 500 miles away. When they inevitably freak out, you just quit right then. No notice. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.